The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the suburban neighborhood where I had spent most of my life. As I stood at the window, my fingers traced the outline of a family photo pinned to the corkboard. My daughter Lily beamed at the camera, her eyes sparkling with innocence. I felt a pang of nostalgia mixed with an unsettling sense of dread. My family, once a source of comfort, now felt like a fragile facade, easily shattered by the secrets lurking just beneath the surface. Dinner was always an event in our home, but tonight it felt strained. The table was set with care, my mother's good china gleamed under the soft lighting, but the atmosphere was thick with unspoken tension. As I served the roast, I caught my mother's gaze. It was a flicker of something I couldn't quite place. Was it fear or perhaps guilt? I cleared my throat, trying to bridge the silence. Lily suggested we all sleep in the car tonight, I said, half joking, hoping to coax a laugh from my mother. Instead, she stiffened, her fork clattering against the plate. What a strange idea, she replied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. The laughter that followed felt forced, a thin veneer over the underlying discomfort. As I glanced around the table, I noticed David's eyes darting between me and my mother, a silent conversation passing between them that I was not a part of. The tension coiled tighter in my stomach, an instinctual warning that something was off. I wanted to believe that our family was solid, that the bonds we shared were unbreakable. Yet the shadows of doubt began to creep in, whispering of betrayals hidden behind polite smiles. After dinner, I retreated to the living room, the silence pressing down on me like a weight. I sank into the couch, the fabric cool against my skin, but my heart raced. The unease settled deep within me, and I wondered if I was ready to confront the truths my family had buried. The thought was unsettling, yet I knew I had to unravel the threads before they tangled too tightly around us. Tomorrow, I would begin to dig deeper, to peel back the layers of deception that had become our lives. I couldn't shake the feeling that my quest for answers would lead to unexpected disappointments, but I had to try, for Lily's sake and for my own. The car parked outside loomed in my mind, a silent witness to the secrets we harbored. It was just a vehicle, but in that moment, it felt like a portal to an uncertain future. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. This was just the beginning of a journey that would test my trust in those I loved most. The dining room was dimly lit, the flickering candlelight casting dancing shadows on the walls, creating an almost eerie atmosphere that made my skin crawl. The table was set meticulously, yet the air was thick with unspoken tension. As we sat down for what was supposed to be a family dinner, I could feel the weight of expectation pressing down on me like a heavy blanket. My mother, Karen, sat at the head of the table, her presence commanding yet suffocating, her eyes scanning the room with a critical gaze. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, the fabric of my dress clinging to me, reminding me of how out of place I felt in my own family. "Amber, dear, would you like to say grace?" Karen's voice cut through the silence, her tone dripping with a saccharine sweetness that felt disingenuous. I hesitated, glancing at my father's empty chair, a stark reminder of the family we once were. Sure, Mom," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. As I spoke the words, I could feel my heart racing, the discomfort of our strained relationship swirling in my chest like a storm. The meal began with strained pleasantries and forced laughter, but it quickly devolved into a series of awkward silences punctuated by my mother's pointed remarks. "You really should wear something more flattering, Amber. It's important to make a good impression," she said, her eyes narrowing as she gestured dismissively at my outfit. My stomach churned and I could feel the heat creeping up my neck. I forced a smile, masking the hurt her words inflicted. Later, as we cleared the table, I noticed a small package tucked away in the corner, wrapped in delicate paper adorned with a ribbon. Curiosity piqued, I reached for it, my fingers trembling slightly as I unwrapped it. Inside lay a small, intricately designed locket. I opened it to find two pictures, one of me as a child and another of a woman I didn't recognize. My breath hitched as I realized this was more than just a gift. It felt like a key to hidden truths, a glimpse into secrets my mother had kept buried. "Where did you get this?" I asked, my voice quaking with a mix of excitement and dread. Karen's smile faltered for a moment before she regained her composure. "Oh, it's just something I found. You should cherish family heirlooms," she replied, her tone dismissive. I could sense the walls closing in around me, the laughter from earlier now a distant memory. My mind raced, grappling with the implications of her words. Was this a gesture of love or a veiled attempt at manipulation? The sun hung low in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the living room. I stood in front of the family desk, my fingers brushing against the polished wood, and the coolness of the surface sent a shiver down my spine. The air was thick with dust, the faint scent of old paper lingering like an uninvited guest. Among the cluttered stacks of bills and forgotten mail, a manila envelope caught my eye, the edges worn and frayed. My heart raced as I recognized the familiar handwriting on the front. It was my mother's, a reminder of the many times she had hidden truths beneath layers of deceit. As I opened the envelope, a piece of paper slipped out, fluttering to the floor like a fallen leaf. I picked it up, my breath hitching as I read the word deed scrawled across the top. My mind raced through a whirlwind of emotions, each one more intense than the last. How could she do this to me? My fingers trembled as I unfolded the document, revealing the ownership of our family home. The room started to spin, memories flooding back of laughter, of warmth, of the countless holidays spent within these walls. But now it felt tainted, the very foundation of my family crumbling beneath me. "Amber, what are you doing?" The sharp voice of my mother sliced through the thick silence. I turned to see her standing in the doorway, a mixture of anger and panic etched across her face. The betrayal simmered in my chest, threatening to boil over. "You shouldn't be looking through my things." Her words dripped with condescension, igniting a fire within me. "Your things, this is our home, our life. How could you keep this from me?" I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, my voice shaking with a mix of fear and fury. I was no longer a child seeking approval. I was a woman demanding the truth. "Amber, you don't understand. I did it to protect you," she replied, her tone shifting from defensive to pleading. The irony of her words was almost too much to bear. "Protect me? From what? From the truth. You're too young to grasp the implications." Her eyes darted away, avoiding my gaze, and I could see the cracks in her carefully constructed facade. "I'm not a child anymore. You've treated me like I'm incapable of handling anything, but look at this. Look at what you've done." My voice rose, echoing off the walls. Each word felt like a dagger, aimed directly at the heart of our relationship. She stepped closer, her expression softening momentarily, but I could see the fear lurking beneath her surface. "You can't just confront me like this, Amber. We are family. We're supposed to stick together." Her voice quivered, but my resolve only hardened. "Stick together? I don't even know who you are anymore." I tossed the deed onto the desk, the sound of paper hitting wood reverberating like a gunshot in the stillness. "You've kept me in the dark, and for what? To maintain some twisted sense of control?" The silence that followed felt suffocating. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a reminder of the distance that had grown between us. I realized that this wasn't just about the house, it was about trust, about the years of lies that had built a wall so high I could barely see over it. "I thought I could protect you, Amber. I thought keeping you safe meant keeping you ignorant." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but the weight of her admission threatened to crush me. "Safe? You think this is safe?" I gestured wildly around the room, as if the very walls were closing in on me. "You've turned our lives into a prison of secrets." The anger I felt was raw, palpable, charged with a lifetime of frustration and disappointment. "I never meant for it to come to this," she said, her voice cracking, revealing a hint of vulnerability that I had not seen before. But it was too late. Her words felt like a weak bandage on an open wound. I had to make a choice. "You need to understand that I won't let you control my life anymore," I declared, feeling a surge of determination. The path ahead was uncertain, but I was done living in the shadows of my mother's decisions. As I turned to leave, my heart ached with a mix of anger and sorrow. The journey to uncover the truth had only just begun, but I could feel the weight of betrayal lingering in the air like a storm about to break. No matter the outcome, I was ready to confront the tempest. The atmosphere in my home felt charged, heavy with the unspoken words and unresolved feelings that hung like storm clouds ready to burst. I stood in the living room, the faint scent of burnt toast lingering in the air, an unintentional reminder of the chaos that had taken over my life. My fingers traced the edge of the coffee table, its surface scratched and worn, a testament to the many arguments that had erupted over the years. It seemed like a fitting metaphor for my family, used and damaged, yet still standing. David entered the room, his brow furrowed in concern as he caught my eye. "We need to talk about what happened with your mother. This can't just be brushed aside, Amber." His voice was low, but the intensity behind it sent a shiver down my spine. I could feel the weight of his words sinking in, igniting a fire of indignation within me. How could she betray my trust so blatantly? I turned away, feeling the heat of frustration rising in my chest. "I can't even look at her right now, David. It's like she's been playing me all along and I didn't see it until now." "It's infuriating." I clenched my fists, the sharp edges of my nails digging into my palms. Memories flooded my mind, every forced smile, every moment she'd pretended to support me while secretly undermining my decisions. David stepped closer, his hand resting gently on my shoulder. "I know this is hard, but we have to plan our next move. You deserve to confront her to get answers. It's time to stand up for yourself, Amber." The sincerity in his eyes made my heart race, yet a part of me hesitated. What if confronting her only opened old wounds? What if I lost everything? I took a deep breath, trying to steady the whirlwind of emotions within me. What if she refuses to acknowledge it? What if she twists the truth again? My voice wavered, doubt creeping in like a thief in the night. The fear of losing my mother, despite her betrayal, gnawed at my insides. I remembered a time when things weren't so complicated, when her laughter filled the air like music, and I could turn to her for comfort. David squeezed my shoulder, grounding me. "You're not alone in this. We'll face her together. You have the strength to hold her accountable for her actions. This isn't just about you, it's about your daughter too. She deserves to know the truth." The thought of Emily stirred something deep within me, a fierce protectiveness that overshadowed my doubts. You're right, I can't let this go on. I won't let her manipulate us anymore. It's time to take a stand, I declared, my voice gaining strength with each word. A sense of determination began to replace the despair that had threatened to consume me, igniting a spark of defiance I hadn't felt in a long time. David nodded, his expression turning serious. Let's make a plan. We need to approach this strategically. We can't just walk in unprepared. This is about more than just confronting her. It's about taking back control of your life. As we began to outline our strategy, my heart raced with a blend of apprehension and excitement. The stakes were high, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of purpose. I could no longer be the passive participant in my own story. It was time to reclaim my narrative, to demand the respect I deserved from the very people who had let me down. The road ahead would be difficult, but I was ready to take that first step into the unknown, armed with the truth and the support of the one person who believed in me. The tension that hung in the air was palpable as I entered the living room, the familiar sense of cinnamon and freshly brewed coffee mixing with the unease that had settled in our family. My mother, Karen, sat rigidly on the edge of the couch, her gaze firmly fixed on the family photo hanging on the wall, a forced smile plastered across her face, as if it could hold together the fraying threads of our relationships. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, an anxious drumbeat beneath my calm facade. Today was supposed to be about healing, but I sensed the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I took a deep breath, my fingers brushing against the smooth fabric of my dress as I steadied myself. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. Karen glanced at me, her expression unreadable, but I caught a flicker of something. Was it regret or defiance? She nodded slowly, her body language still rigid, as if bracing for a confrontation. I gestured for her to join me at the table, the polished wood surface reflecting the dim light, a stark contrast to the darkness that loomed in our hearts. The air was thick with unspoken words as I sat down, the weight of our history pressing down on me. "I want to understand what happened, Mom. Why did you keep the truth from me?" I leaned forward, searching her eyes for answers, but all I found was a wall of silence. My frustration bubbled up, threatening to spill over. I remembered the moments we had shared, the laughter, the stories, but they were now overshadowed by betrayal. "Amber, I did it to protect you," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. The softness in her tone was a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. I felt a flash of anger mixed with confusion. Protect? How could hiding the truth ever protect me? My jaw clenched as I fought the urge to lash out. "By lying to me," I shot back, my voice sharper than intended. "You think that keeping secrets is the answer? I need to know who I can trust." The words hung in the air, heavy with the reality of our fractured family. I could see the pain in her eyes, the flicker of guilt, but it was quickly masked by a steely resolve. "You don't understand, Amber. Sometimes the truth is too dangerous to share," she replied, her tone defensive. My heart sank at her response, a familiar feeling creeping in, one of helplessness. I had hoped for understanding, for a moment of clarity, but instead I was met with the same old barriers that had kept us apart. My mind raced with memories of our past arguments, the way she had always deflected my questions, choosing silence over honesty. Just then, Lisa, my best friend, entered the room, her presence a welcome interruption. "Hey, I thought I heard voices," she chirped, trying to lighten the mood. I appreciated her effort, but the tension lingered like a heavy fog. "We were just talking about family dynamics," I said, forcing a smile. Lisa's eyes darted between us, sensing the undercurrents of conflict. "You know, maybe we should all take a step back and breathe," she suggested, her tone hopeful. I wanted to believe her, to find a way to mend what was broken, but the distance between my mother and me felt insurmountable. As I looked into Lisa's eyes, I saw the concern reflected back at me, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this struggle. Feeling overwhelmed, I pushed back from the table, my chair scraping against the floor, a sharp sound that echoed in the charged atmosphere. I needed to find a way to break through the walls that had been built between us, but how? The question loomed over me, heavy and unresolved. I could feel the tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, a surge of emotion threatening to break free, but I held it back. Today was not just about me. It was about reclaiming my family, piece by piece. "I just want us to be honest with each other, to try and rebuild what we've lost," I said, my voice steadied by resolve. As I glanced between Karen and Lisa, I felt a flicker of hope amidst the despair. Maybe, just maybe, this could be the beginning of our healing, a chance to confront the shadows that had haunted us for too long. But even as the thought crossed my mind, I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges and resistance. I had to push forward to fight for my family, even if it meant facing uncomfortable truths. The air was thick with tension as I stood in the dimly lit room, the weight of unspoken truths pressing down on my chest. My palms were clammy, and I could feel the coolness of the walls against my back, grounding me as I prepared for the confrontation that had been building between my mother and me. Just minutes ago, we had been in the living room, the echoes of laughter from the wedding reception a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. It was then that she had casually mentioned something that shattered my world. A deed to the house hidden from me all these years. I could still hear her voice, the way it dripped with condescension as she spoke. "You should be grateful, Amber. Some things are better left unsaid." Those words stung, igniting a fire of indignation within me. How could she dismiss my feelings so easily? I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that would either mend or break us further. As I stepped into the living room, my heart raced, each beat punctuating the silence that enveloped us. My mother sat in her familiar chair, her fingers intertwined, a picture of calm that belied the chaos swirling within me. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, the urge to confront her bubbling beneath the surface. "We need to talk about the deed, Mom," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. She looked up, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance. "Why now? Can't you see this is not the time, Amber?" Her words were sharp, and I felt the sting of her disapproval deep in my gut. But I couldn't back down, not now. "It is the time, Mom." "It's the only time," I shot back, my frustration boiling over. The room fell into an uncomfortable silence, the air thick with unsaid accusations and buried resentments. I took a step closer, my resolve hardening. "You've hidden so much from me, and I deserve to know why. I refuse to be kept in the dark any longer." For a moment, I saw a flicker of vulnerability in her eyes, but it was quickly replaced by her trademark defensiveness. She crossed her arms, a barrier that I knew would be hard to breach. "You don't understand, Amber. I did it to protect you," she exclaimed, her voice trembling slightly, but I was done with her excuses. I needed the truth, no matter how painful it would be. "Protect me or protect yourself," I pressed, my heart pounding in my chest. The weight of my words hung in the air, a challenge that dared her to respond. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the confrontation that would change everything. As I stood there, my heart racing, I felt a surge of clarity wash over me. I would not let her manipulate me any longer. The truth was out there, waiting to be uncovered, and I was ready to face whatever consequences lay ahead. This was my chance to reclaim my voice, to expose the deceit that had lingered like a shadow in our family, and I wouldn't let fear dictate my actions any longer. "This ends with me." The dim light of the kitchen illuminated the scattered papers and coffee mugs that littered the table, the air heavy with the rich aroma of brewing coffee. I sat across from David, my heart racing as we began to discuss our plan. His brow furrowed, mirroring my own anxiety. "Are you sure about this, Amber?" he asked, his voice low, a hint of concern lacing his words. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on me, the gravity of what we were about to embark on. "We have to do something. I can't just sit here and let them continue to manipulate us," I replied, my tone firm despite the tremor in my hands. The thought of confronting my mother and exposing her betrayal was daunting, but it was also invigorating. I had felt powerless for too long, and now I was ready to take back control. I recalled the moments of deceit, the lies that had woven through our family like a dark thread, suffocating the truth. David leaned closer, his eyes searching mine. "What if it backfires? What if they retaliate?" The anxiety in his voice was palpable, and I appreciated his concern, but my resolve hardened. "Then we face it together. I can't let them destroy what's left of our family, not anymore," I said, my voice rising slightly as determination surged through me. I pulled out a folder filled with documents, each page a piece of the puzzle that revealed my mother's duplicity. "We need to gather evidence, confront her with the truth. We can't just go in blind," I continued, my fingers trembling slightly as I traced the outline of a particularly damning letter. A memory flicked through my mind, the sound of my mother's laughter echoing through the house, a stark contrast to the betrayal hidden behind it. David nodded slowly, a flicker of hope in his eyes. "Okay, let's do this. But we have to be careful. This isn't just about us anymore, it's about Emily too." His words struck a chord, reminding me of the stakes involved. I couldn't let our actions hurt her, but I also knew that the truth was necessary. As I looked into David's eyes, I felt a surge of adrenaline. We were on the brink of something monumental, and I was ready to embrace the chaos that lay ahead. The plan was forming, a fragile outline that held the promise of retribution. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation to come. The path forward was fraught with uncertainty, but I was resolute. This was not just about revenge. It was about reclaiming my identity and my family's integrity, no matter the cost. The air in the room felt electric, charged with the intensity of unspoken words and simmering emotions. As I faced my mother, Karen, the walls seemed to close in around us, the pastel colors of the room fading into a shadowy backdrop to our confrontation. I could hear the distant sounds of laughter from the reception, a stark contrast to the storm that raged between us. My heart pounded in my chest, a steady drumbeat that filled the silence, urging me forward. "I know what you did, Mom," I declared, my voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Karen's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise crossing her face before it settled into a mask of defiance. My fingers clenched into fists at my sides, a physical manifestation of the rage and betrayal coursing through me. Memories of the gift reveal and the awkward laughter at family dinners flooded my mind, each one a reminder of the facade she had built around us, a barrier between truth and deception. "You think you can just waltz in here and accuse me?" she snapped, her voice dripping with indignation. I could see the lines of her face hardened, her eyes narrowing as if she were preparing for a battle. But I was no longer the daughter willing to back down. I took a step closer, the resolve building within me like a rising tide. "I'm not here to accuse you, I'm here to demand the truth," I shot back, my heart racing with a blend of fear and determination. The weight of our family's secrets pressed down on me, suffocating yet liberating at the same time. I thought of David, my partner, standing by my side as I fought for our future. His faith in me fueled my courage, and I refused to let my mother dictate our narrative any longer. Corinne's hands trembled slightly as she gripped the edge of the table, the tension in her body palpable. I could see the flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, the cracks in her armor beginning to show. It was a moment of vulnerability, and I seized it. "You've lied to me for years, hidden everything behind a mask of family loyalty. I deserve better, and so does Emily." My voice trembled slightly, but I pushed through, feeling the truth surge within me like a roaring fire. The silence that followed was deafening, a chasm of unspoken emotions stretching between us. Corinne's facade began to crumble, her mouth opening and closing as if searching for the right words. I could sense the turmoil within her, the fear of exposure battling against her need to protect her reputation. But I stood my ground, unwavering. Finally she exhaled, a shaky breath escaping her lips. "You don't understand the sacrifices I've made for this family." Her voice cracked, and for the first time I saw the woman beneath the armor, the mother who had fought to uphold our image, yet had sacrificed our truth in the process. "And at what cost?" I countered, my voice steady, the weight of my words heavy in the air. The confrontation was a turning point, an opportunity to reshape our family dynamics. I had fought for my voice, and now I needed to fight for our future. I could feel the tide shifting, the air thick with change. As we stood there, locked in a battle of wills, I realized that this was the moment where everything could change. I could either allow her to manipulate me again, or I could forge a new path, one where honesty reigned. The aftermath of this confrontation would shape the very fabric of our family, and I was ready to face the consequences. This was my chance to reclaim not just my voice, but the truth that had long remained buried beneath layers of betrayal. This ends with me. In the aftermath of my confrontation, the air felt charged with a mix of unresolved emotions and tentative hope. I stood in the living room, the familiar surroundings now tinged with a sense of finality. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting long shadows that danced across the floor, mirroring the turmoil within me. The echoes of our earlier argument still lingered, haunting the edges of my thoughts. Emily had stormed off, leaving behind a silence that screamed louder than the chaos we had just unleashed. I could see her retreating figure, her wedding dress trailing behind like a ghost of our past. The weight of my words hung heavy in the air, and I felt a bittersweet pang in my chest. Had I truly crossed a line? The thought gnawed at me, yet a flicker of resolve ignited within. I had finally spoken my truth, and there was no going back. As I sank into the plush fabric of the couch, I recalled the moments leading up to this, each attempt at connection, each brush-off from Emily. It all felt like pieces of a puzzle that had finally clicked into place. The journey to reclaim my voice had been fraught with fear, but it was a necessary step towards healing. I could no longer allow my silence to speak for me. David entered the room, his expression a mixture of concern and support. "Amber, are you okay?" he asked softly, his voice a comforting balm against the chaos. I nodded, though I could feel the tremors of uncertainty still coursing through me. "I did what I had to do, David. I needed her to see me." He sat beside me, his presence grounding. "You did, and maybe it's the first step towards understanding each other again. It won't be easy, but you opened a door." "That's something, right?" His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket, offering solace amidst the storm. I wanted to believe him, to embrace the possibility of reconciliation, but the fear of further alienation loomed large. A soft knock interrupted our moment, and to my surprise it was Emily again, her eyes red-rimmed but determined. "Mom, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. My heart raced at the sight of her vulnerability, a stark contrast to the anger she had displayed moments earlier. This was my chance to bridge the gap, to find common ground amidst the wreckage. "Of course, sweetheart," I replied, my voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions inside me. As we sat down together, I felt a cautious optimism creeping in. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new chapter, one where we could confront the past and build a future together, one where both our voices could coexist. Reflecting on the journey that had brought us here, I realized this was just the beginning of a long and difficult path. Yet I was ready to take it, no longer afraid of being seen. It was time to heal, time to transform the pain of betrayal into a bridge of understanding. I could feel the weight of our shared history behind us, but ahead lay the promise of hope and the possibility of rebuilding our fractured family bonds. This was my moment of acceptance, and I would not let it slip away. In that room, surrounded by the remnants of our past, I finally felt a sense of closure starting to unfold. The journey would be long, but I was ready to embrace it, step by step, hand in hand with my daughter. We would navigate the complexities of our relationship together, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about what lay ahead. As I reflected on the tumultuous journey that had unfolded, I felt a sense of bittersweet relief wash over me. The shadows of betrayal that once loomed so heavily had begun to dissipate, replaced by a fragile hope for the future. My relationship with Emily was far from perfect, yet we had started to carve out a space for honesty and understanding amidst the chaos. The warmth of her smile, once a distant memory, felt like a beacon guiding me through the storm. I could still hear the echoes of our past arguments, but they no longer defined us. Instead, they became stepping stones toward a deeper connection, a reminder of our shared humanity and the complexity of love. The scent of fresh flowers lingered in the air, a soft reminder of the wedding that had catalyzed our confrontation. I imagined the laughter and joy that filled the reception hall, now tinged with the knowledge of our truths. Each moment spent with Emily became a chance to rebuild, to acknowledge our flaws and embrace the imperfect beauty of our relationship. I realized that healing would be a continuous process, requiring patience and vulnerability, but I was willing to embrace the journey ahead. As I stood there, contemplating the lessons learned, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I wanted to inspire others to reflect on their own family dynamics, to confront the uncomfortable truths that often lay beneath the surface. It was my hope that by sharing my story, others might find the courage to address their own struggles, to foster connection in the face of adversity. This was not just my journey, it was a call to all those feeling unseen or unheard. If you've resonated with my story, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell. Together, let's continue this conversation about family, trust, and the strength it takes to reclaim our voices. Your journey matters, and I'm here to support you every step of the way.